And now joining us for an all-out breakdown of some of the deals ahead of the NBA's trade deadline, our sports writer Josh Planos, joining us from Nebraska, and from the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network, Leigh Ellis joining us from Atlanta. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Nice to always have you both. Hey, Leigh. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Andre. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks, guys. Let's get to it. A lot of people were shocked, I included, by that Kings-Pacers trade, saying it was very lopsided with the Pacers, winning the deal. But some say, what are the Kings doing? Even if they did give away one of their biggest stars, a former All-Star in Domantas Sabonis. Josh, why is this a big win for the Pacers?
Andre, there's a reason why the Kings haven't made the playoffs in 15 years, and some of it is evidenced by this trade. They gave up the guy with the highest upside in the deal in Tyrese Haliburton.
Yes, sir.
Who's 4 years younger than Sabonis, who, yes, is a former All-Star and arguably better this year than he was last, but Haliburton is on one of the most team-friendly contracts in the league. Look, the Pacers are terrible, and so are the Kings. Neither is going to the playoffs, but Haliburton and Brogdon could be a fun, big backcourt combo, and they stole the best player in the deal.
Well, I hope, Tyrese is my boy. I've been collecting his cards. I hope he makes it huge in Indiana. Leigh, let's talk about that logic behind the Kings' move here. Do you think it makes sense?
Not really, no, because even though you are getting Domantas Sabonis, who is a proven All-Star two times, he's only 25, and he's got a reasonable contract himself, considering what other contracts are out there in the league. But for the Sacramento Kings, I thought of all the players they were prepared to move and they were going to move this deadline, it would have been first a Harrison Barnes, a Buddy Hield, who does go in this deal as it turns out, but also then maybe a De'Aaron Fox, who's been there a long time. Things haven't quite worked out. I would have just hung on to Tyrese Haliburton for multiple reasons. He's young. Josh mentions his contract there. Now, they drafted him. He wanted to be there. He was a fan favorite. Now, we don't know. And certainly when these deals happen, it's funny to sort of see the reaction on Twitter there. Now, people, you would think Tyrese Haliburton was a multiple All-Star already. Now, he's not that, but it's just that potential and that ceiling that we don't know what that is.
That's
and
right.
The Kings are giving up on him for a guy who's really only going to move the needle marginally for them. So, look, I like Sabonis. I think he's a good player, but I just would never have given up Tyrese Haliburton for him in return. It was reported as well, of course, that the Sacramento Kings were not prepared to give up Haliburton to get Ben Simmons back. And that's understandable. I can understand why they wouldn't make that deal. But the fact they've gone out and now done this with Tristan Thompson, going to Indiana as well to get Sabonis in return, just doesn't make any sense for me. So if I was a Kings fan this morning, I'd be very, very frustrated with the franchise, because I just think they've given up the one player who they should not have given up at this deadline.
I agree. I totally agree. Tyrese really shows a lot of promise. Second season. I really feel he's a star in the making, Tyrese Haliburton. Well, they still have Marvin Bagley. They should have shipped him away. I don't know. But we don't know what the Kings front office were doing with that particular trade, although Buddy Hield has that huge contract that they unloaded. Well, before the trade with the Kings, the Pacers already had a deal with the Cavs, so they're really starting to rebuild. They're making some moves. Indiana giving up Caris LeVert and a 2022 draft pick for Ricky Rubio and 3 picks. Josh, your thoughts on this deal?
I just feel bad for Ricky Rubio mostly.
Yeah, right.
He's just the consummate professional, the consummate teammate. He does everything right, and then he gets shipped out. By most accounts, he was really well liked in the locker room and probably directly or indirectly impacted Darius Garland's progression this season, as he has at previous stops. And I'm not a huge fan of Caris LeVert's package on this team. I think he drowns a lot of offensive possessions and could potentially disrupt the juice we've seen in Cleveland. But they need someone to help out Garland in the worst way, and LeVert could alleviate some of that burden. So I think it's a net positive move for them. I just hope that he kind of fits in with that ecosystem that we're seeing that's fun and exciting and entertaining in Cleveland.
I feel bad for Ricky too, man. He's been bounced around in the league. I remember when he was with Phoenix, they had a good season. Then he gets shipped away, and then now he gets shipped away from Cleveland to Indiana. Leigh, how about that? Let's go to that trade between the Portland Trail Blazers and the New Orleans Pelicans. Well, a lot of people probably looking like seeing that coming. Of course, an end of an era for CJ McCollum in Portland. Like that team has been to the playoffs, but really doesn't seem to get over that hump. So they're breaking that duo of Lillard and McCollum. What do you think of this deal as we see right now? McCollum, Nance, and Snell going to New Orleans, and then a couple of names like Hart, Ransky, Alexander Walker, Lozada, and then the picks, which Portland gets.
Well, quite clearly, the Portland Trail Blazers are moving in a direction now, because we saw that last week as well with the trade when they traded away Norman Powell. They're basically trying to get under the salary cap there, or under the tax, I should say. And now they're breaking up the guy who they drafted in CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, who did have a very good backcourt partnership, but unfortunately they never really got further. Well, they did make it to the Western Conference Finals, but that was a little bit of a high watermark for that team. And I was really compare this to the situation in Toronto a few years ago when it was Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan.
That's right.
Always making the playoffs, always looking good. This is where the Blazers were. And the Raptors realized they had to make a move if they were going to get over the hump. Now, they got lucky with timing. Kawhi Leonard became available. They went all in. They got Kawhi. They go on to win a championship. So sometimes things just work out like this. But I think if you're Portland, they just kept looking at what they were doing. And Lillard's missed so much time this season. CJ's been out as well. And they probably just thought, listen, we're just not getting any closer to a championship. And so we've got to cash in on one of them while we can now, while their value is still high. And CJ McCollum's got 2 years, about $60 million left on his contract, which is a pretty movable contract for a 30-year-old guy right now. And so I think this was the smart move. Portland has to pick a lane. And I think that lane that they've been trying to do is build around these guys for years. It just hasn't come to fruition. So now I think they're about to hit the reset button. We'll see if they make any more moves here before tomorrow's deadline. I think Damian Lillard will still be a Blazer, but maybe they move off from Yusuf Nurkic or somebody else to try to get another draft pick and future asset in return here, because for the Portland Trail Blazers, a very good, consistent team, unfortunately haven't been a legit title contender for a few years. And I think they realize it's time to start again.
Well, let's talk more. I like your takes, but aside from the trade deadline, of course, NBA fans, Leigh and Josh, are also keeping tabs on this year's All-Star game. It's going to be an exciting weekend as LeBron James and Kevin Durant get ready to assemble their All-Star teams. Well, stay tuned for our All-Star mock draft with Josh Planos and Leigh Ellis later on the show. Sports Desk will be taking a timeout. We'll be right back. Stay tuned only here, CNN Philippines. Tomorrow, NBA All-Star Game captains LeBron James and Kevin Durant will select their players from the pool of starters and reserves for the midseason classic. While we wait for that, we're going to do a draft of our own just for fun. And of course, we still have with us sports writer Josh Planos from Nebraska, joining us live from Nebraska, that is, and from the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network, Leigh Ellis, joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. These two will be playing the roles of two captains, LeBron James and Kevin Durant, and both of them already drafted their starters 2 weeks ago, with Leigh picking for Team LeBron and Josh choosing for Team Durant. And if you missed that episode, well, here's where we stand so far. The draft, Leigh, let's do a quick recap here. Since Leigh started, of course, Leigh chose Giannis as his first pick, and then he came up with Joel Embiid. There's Ja Morant, DeMar DeRozan. While Josh, on the other hand, so far has Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, which took so long to be drafted, Trae Young, and his favorite, Josh's favorite, Andrew Wiggins. And because Kevin Durant won't actually be playing at the All-Star game, the NBA has already announced and named Jason Tatum as his replacement. So with that, I will put Tatum already up here, if he fits. There he is, as he will start the All-Star game with these guys. Of course, will we be replacing KD? Okay, boys, All-Star draft rules are in play, which means, Josh, you will be picking first from the pool of reserves, and since Leigh got to pick first for the starters, are you guys ready? Put your game faces on.
Let's do this.
Ready? Josh, come on, you got to do better.
I would like the record to reflect that I lost one of the greatest scorers of all time and had the leader of a 7 seed added in his place. You might as well have made my team replace its shoes with these Papa Bear slip-ons I found at a TJ Maxx, because that's the kind of disadvantage we're talking about here.
Okay,
with
buddy.
That said, I'll pick Luka Doncic. He brought the Slovenian national team to the Olympics. I think he can get this team to a win in the All-Star game.
Luka, baby. Luka Doncic, of course, from the Dallas Mavericks, will be Josh's first pick here. Wow, that's starting really solid right away with Luka Doncic as the first pick here in the reserves for Team Josh. And of course, you did mention already why. Do you still want to explain why Luka? No, not anymore.
I do think he's one of the most skilled players we have in the league right now. I think he can do a little bit of everything. And really, I'm just going all in on the three-point shot because I'm going to be lacking size. So I may as well make up for it in the scoring column.
Well, third All-Star appearance for Luka. And this season averaging 26 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, and 8.9 assists per game. How about you, Leigh Ellis, your next pick? Your first pick for the reserves.
Yeah, nice pick there. I would have taken Doncic if I'd had that first pick. But listen, it's in Cleveland. There's a guy who's making his All-Star debut, and I really am excited for him there. So I'm going with the guard from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Darius Garland, in front of his home fans. In front of his home fans, I want him out there playing because I think he might get a little bit of a bump from the support there. So give me Darius Garland.
What a surprise move here for Leigh Ellis, taking Darius Garland as his first pick for the reserves. Garland making his first NBA All-Star appearance, drafted as the 5th overall pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, averaging 19.8 points per game, 3 rebounds, and 8 assists per game this season for the Cavs. Wow, that's huge. I didn't expect that coming, to be honest with you, Leigh. Thank you for making this fun. Josh, on to you.
Let's go with Chris Paul, Hall of Famer, probably in the MVP conversation, though certainly not going to win it this year. I just think that he makes everybody around him better. So could pick worse.
CP3, his 12th All-Star appearance, drafted as a 4th overall pick back in the 2005 NBA Draft. Of course, CP, 2013, he All-Star MVP this season, averaging 14.9 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 10.4 assists per game. Of course, the point guard. You'll never go wrong when you pick CP on your team. Leigh, back to you.
Yeah, another good pick there from Josh. But listen, if he's going to have Chris Paul, then I need someone who's got a bit of, who knows all Chris Paul's secrets. So I think I'm going with the other guard from the Phoenix Suns, the high-scoring Devin Booker, who has been on an absolute tear lately. So hopefully he can say, hey, listen, this is what Chris Paul likes to do. And also, I've got to split those two guys up because I don't want to be going against both of those guys, especially if it gets a tight game late in that fourth quarter. We know what the Suns do in fourth quarters, especially Chris Paul. So I've got to take Devin Booker as a bit of a strategic move here. That's
smart. D-Book, of course, making his 3rd NBA All-Star appearance, drafted as the 13th overall pick in the 2015 NBA Draft, and he's averaging 25.4 points per game this season, 5.5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game for the Suns. Looking really strong this season, might make it all the way to the finals. Let's see if the Warriors will have to say anything about that. But D-Book, absolutely a great pick. So far, Garland and Booker for Leigh, Doncic and Paul for Josh. Back to you, Mr. Planos.
I'm going to go with Zach LaVine. I think it's one thing to win the game, but you also want to win the highlight reel package. And I think that he alone
for sure
might allow me to do it. So I'm going to go with the dunker.
Zach LaVine from the Windy City, of course. Mr. LaVine making his 2nd NBA All-Star appearance, drafted as the 13th overall pick back in the 2014 NBA Draft. Out of UCLA, 24.9 points per game this season, 4.8 rebounds, and 4 assists for the Bulls, who are pretty much looking good to make it also all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's see. Back to you, Mr. Leigh Ellis.
Well, this is an all-star game. It's all about entertainment. It's all about fun. You want to see guys out there who really do just go out there and show their artistic creativity with the ball. And so I'm going with another first-time all-star. In fact, he's a replacement player from the Charlotte Hornets. I am going with LaMelo Ball because this guy, he plays every game like it's an all-star game. So when it is an actual all-star game, I'm expecting some fireworks from the Charlotte Hornets point guard.
LaMelo Ball. Yes, I've been collecting his NBA cards. But LaMelo Ball, just really a fun guy. I was actually expecting Josh to pick LaMelo earlier, but yes, he is definitely entertaining. One of the reasons why we watch Charlotte Hornets games. Just a fun guy to watch, and he will be exciting to watch at the NBA All-Star game. Back to you, Josh Planos.
Let's keep the momentum going with the first-time nominations. I'm going to go with Fred VanVleet. Nobody has watched a single Raptors game in the U.S. this season, so he's right where he wants to be.
Wow.
He's the overlooked guy, the too short guy, and here he is at his first All-Star game. I also think he'll probably take it more seriously than maybe some of his peers because he hasn't been there before, so I'm going to go with Fred.
First All-Star appearance, drafted out of Wichita State, and FVV averaging 21.5 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, and 7 assists per game this season. Mr. Ellis, it's back to you. I'm still looking at a lot of good names here. There's Butler, Gobert, Green, James Harden, Chris Middleton, Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns, and DeJounte Murray. Leigh, your next pick.
Yeah, I've got a pretty strong backcourt, and there's not a lot of front courts players there. There's not a lot of big, so I need another guy who can spread the floor a little bit, shoot some threes, and I'm going with Karl Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Karl Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Cat makes it to the All-Star game for his third appearance in the All-Star weekend, and he is averaging 24.4 points per game this season, 9.5 boards, and 3.9 assists. Okay, so we're taking a look at the names right now. We're going to stop with Leigh Ellis' pick here. We'll take a quick break. So far, Leigh picked Garland, Booker, LaMelo Ball, Karl Anthony Towns. Meantime, Josh has Doncic, Chris Paul, Zach LaVine, and Fred VanVleet. We'll go back. We'll take a quick break as you take a look at our big board right now. 9 names to go in our mock draft here on CNN Philippines. And we'll continue this after this quick break. Stay tuned to Sports Desk only here on CNN Philippines, where we go all out for the day's top sports stories. Stay tuned. We're back. Thank you for joining us here on Sports Desk only on CNN Philippines, and just another fun day here on the show. And our guest today, sports writer Josh Planos from the No Dunks podcast, and from the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. That's Leigh Ellis. Leigh from Atlanta, Georgia, and Josh is joining us from Nebraska. And we've been doing a mock draft of the NBA All-Star game. We're in the reserves. Let's go to our big board right now. Let's take a look, do another recap. So far, Garland, Booker, LaMelo Ball, and Cat picked by Leigh Ellis. And on the left side, of course, Team Durant, Josh Planos has Doncic, Paul, LaVine, and Fred VanVleet. Jason Tatum is up there with the starters because he is replacing KD in the starters because KD is injured. Back to you, Mr. Planos. It's your pick right now. There's still Jimmy Butler, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green. If you get Green, you basically get DeJounte Murray, James Harden, Chris Middleton, and Donovan Mitchell.
I think in order to prevent this layup line that's forming for Leigh's roster, I need somebody who's going to do the dirty work, somebody who's going to protect the rim, someone who's probably going to do the less sexy work out there on the court. So I'm going to go with Rudy Gobert.
The Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert will be Josh's next pick. Okay, here it is, Rudy. There you go, Rudy Gobert, of course. Third All-Star appearance for Rudy Gobert, and he is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, averaging 16 points, 15 boards per game, and 2 blocks for the Jazz this season. Back to you, Mr. Leigh Ellis. Who's your next pick, sir?
Okay, great. Well, look, it is an all-star game. We know there's going to be lots of offense, not much defense, but you want a guy who can also just hit that mid-ranger out of it, no matter what situation he's in. So I'm going with Chris Middleton, the NBA champ with the Milwaukee Bucks. They're multiple-time all-star. This is the just sort of guy you want out there. You know he's going to be playing seriously and giving buckets to the opposition.
For sure. His third NBA All-Star appearance, drafted as the 39th overall pick in the 2012 NBA draft out of Texas A&M. Middleton is averaging close to 20 points. It's 19.6 points per game, 5.6 boards, and 5 dimes per game for the Bucks this season. Okay, back to you, Josh Planos. We still have Butler, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. Of course, the name of Draymond Green and DeJounte Murray as one. If you pick Green, basically you get, if you pick DeJounte Murray, I'll just have to drag it there. Next pick, Leigh. Josh. I'm confused.
Spending 99% of my capital on the offensive side of the ball, I think I need somebody who's going to do some sort of lockdown efforts on the perimeter, on the defensive end. So I'm going to go with Jimmy Butler. I think he's good on both sides of the floor. I need to lock up the perimeter.
Jimmy Buckets, his 6th NBA All-Star appearance. And Jimmy Buckets is averaging 21.8 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, 6.4 assists, has been named to the NBA, All-NBA 4 times in his career. Of course, he is doing everything for Miami. Miami looking solid this season for the Heat, for Coach Spo. Okay, so we still have 3 names to go. Leigh Ellis. Leigh?
I think I am going to go with another pretty athletic, dynamic guard, and that is Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz. It's still pretty solid right down to the end there. I like Donovan. I like his athleticism, good 3-point shooter, and he's got something to prove. You know, the Jazz often get overlooked. I think this could be the sort of platform for him that he'd like to show off a little bit more of his game to a few more eyes, and maybe he gets sometimes playing for the Jazz.
How come the Utah Jazz players always get to pick last, right? Like last year, Katie was saying no one plays the Utah Jazz, even in 2K. But Donovan Mitchell, Spida, his 3rd NBA All-Star appearance, drafted as the 13th overall pick back in the 2017 NBA draft out of Louisville. And Spida is averaging 25.5 points per game, 4 boards, and 5 assists for the Jazz this season. So 2 names to go. Wow, I didn't expect the beard to still stay there. But James Harden, the Brooklyn Nets, is still up there. And we also see DeJounte Murray of the Spurs, of course, who is replacing Draymond Green in this year's NBA All-Star game. Josh Planos, your final pick.
You know, I'm a little concerned that Harden is just going to not show up to the arena. But I think the talent has to win out here. So I'm gonna go with James Harden. I'm going to go with the beard.
You feel that Harden won't play in the All-Star game in Cleveland? Let's see. Well, but James Harden will be the final pick of Josh Planos in our fun mock draft for the 2022 NBA All-Star game. For Team Durant, of course, Josh Planos with Harden making his 10th NBA All-Star appearance, drafted as the 3rd overall pick back in the 2009 NBA draft out of Arizona State. And this season, he is averaging 22.5 points per game, 8 boards, and 10 assists for the Nets. And that means DeJounte Murray will go to Leigh Ellis. And I'll just pull Draymond Green's name here. And that rounds up our draft. I want you to say anything. Do you want to say anything about DeJounte, Leigh? Having a great season.
Well, just that I'm pretty happy to get him last because first-time All-Star, replacement player there, but he's got that San Antonio Spurs DNA in him. So you know he's going to play hard, he's going to play tough. And again, it's all about offense in an All-Star game. But if you've got a guy out there who just plays defense as well as he does, that actually could tilt things, especially when he's out there, because he's going to be getting steals, he's going to be putting pressure on guys and getting out and running. So I'm very happy to get DeJounte Murray sort of fall into my lap there.
So let's do a recap here. For Team LeBron, Josh Planos, as we take a look at the big board again, there it is. For Leigh Ellis, I mean, Leigh Ellis with Team LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo as a starter, Joel Embiid of the Sixers, Ja Morant, first All-Star appearance, playing great MVP numbers this season, DeMar DeRozan. And for his reserves, you got Darius Garland from Cleveland, Devin Booker, D-Book of the Suns, LaMelo Ball, a replacement for, of course, for the injured Kevin Durant, but off Charlotte, LaMelo making his first All-Star appearance, also playing solid this season. Cat of the Timberwolves, Chris Middleton, Donovan Mitchell, DeJounte Murray. This is his lineup. Feeling good about your lineup, Leigh?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when you get the first pick and you get to take Giannis, that was always going to be the real big pull there. So very, very happy. But of course, all these players are star players, and in an All-Star game, anything crazy can happen. So who knows exactly how the final teams will look. But yes, very happy with the players I selected.
And for Team Durant, Josh Planos picked, as you can see, of course, his starters, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, Trae Young, Andrew Wiggins, Tatum will be replacing Durant as a starter. And then Luka Doncic, Chris Paul, Zach LaVine, Fred VanVleet, Rudy Gobert, Jimmy Butler, and James Harden. I hope you win if you have this team, Josh. No, but you have a great team, right?
I hope I win too. You know, if we were to redo this draft, I wonder if Wiggins would be taken last.
Well, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But boys, That was so much fun. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you for agreeing to do that with us. Let's do it again more in the future. Again, we just had sports writer Josh Planos joining us live from Nebraska, and from the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network, Leigh Ellis joining us live from Atlanta, Georgia. Boys, stay safe. We'll see you again next time.